I am Maya, 32 years old, and I just bought my parents a $35,000 luxury cruise for their anniversary. Right after I paid for it all, my mother texted me to say I was not invited because my father wanted just family on the trip. What they did not know was that the $966,000 mansion they were living in was owned entirely by my company. So I sold it while they were sailing away. You will not believe what happened when they came back. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to teach toxic family members a lesson they will never forget. Hartsfield, Jackson. Atlanta International Airport was bustling with the usual Thursday morning chaos, a sea of rolling suitcases and rushing passengers. Inside the quiet, exclusive sanctuary of the Delta Priority Lounge, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling glass windows, holding a warm cup of black coffee. As the founder and CEO of a highly successful e-commerce logistics firm, I was used to managing crises, untangling supply chain nightmares, and working 80-hour weeks. I was exhausted, but today I was also incredibly proud. I had just paid $35,000 to upgrade my parents to a VIP package for their 40th anniversary cruise through the Caribbean. It was supposed to be a grand celebration. It was supposed to be the moment my father Marcus and my mother Beatrice would finally look at me with genuine, unbridled pride. I had arranged for a private black car to bring them to the airport. I had arrived 2 hours early to ensure the lounge access, the champagne welcome, and the travel documents were absolutely perfect. Then my phone vibrated against the cool marble table. The screen lit up with a new text message from my mother. "Maya, you are not coming. Dad wants just family on this trip. Get an Uber home." I stared at the bright screen until the letters blurred together. Just family. The phrase echoed in my mind, ringing with the same sharp, suffocating sting I had felt my entire life. I was their flesh and blood, but in their eyes I was merely the financial sponsor of their high society Atlanta lifestyle. I picked up my phone, my hands strangely steady, despite the sudden hollow feeling expanding in my chest. The disrespect was not entirely new, but the sheer calculated cruelty of abandoning me at the airport for a trip I had fully funded was a line I never thought they would cross. I walked toward the edge of the lounge and looked through the glass partition that overlooked Gate 24. There they were. My father Marcus stood tall in his tailored navy suit, looking every bit the proud, wealthy patriarch he always pretended to be. Beside him was my mother Beatrice, her hair perfectly styled, her posture dripping with the kind of artificial wealth she loved to flaunt at her elite social clubs. But they were not alone. Walking right behind them was my older brother Jamal, the undisputed golden child of our family. He was holding the hand of his wife Chloe, a white woman who had masterfully weaponized passive-aggressive insults wrapped in sweet Southern charm. Chloe was laughing loudly, throwing her head back and swinging a quilted black leather bag over her shoulder. My breath caught in my throat. It was the $6,000 Chanel bag I had purchased for my mother just last week. My mother had clearly taken my extravagant gift and handed it directly to her daughter-in-law. I did not think. I simply moved. I walked out of the sliding glass doors of the lounge and marched straight toward Gate 24. The crowded concourse seemed to part around me as I approached my family. My mother saw me first, and her eyes widened in sheer panic. She quickly nudged my father in the ribs. Marcus turned around, his expression instantly hardening from joyous anticipation into a mask of severe irritation. "Dad, what is going on?" I asked, my voice carrying over the ambient noise of the terminal. "Why are Jamal and Chloe here? This was supposed to be our trip." Before my mother could speak, my father stepped forward. He placed a heavy, firm hand flat against my chest and physically pushed me backward, putting distance between me and his precious golden son. "Do not make a scene, Maya," he ordered, his voice low and commanding, laced with that familiar patriarchal authority. "Your brother needs this." I stumbled back half a step, completely shocked by the physical rejection. "Needs this." I repeated, staring at Jamal, who cowardly refused to meet my eyes, opting instead to look down at his expensive designer sneakers. I paid for this trip. I planned every single detail for months so we could celebrate your anniversary as a family. Jamal finally looked up, wearing the same entitled, victimized expression he had worn since childhood. Look, Maya. He started shifting his weight uncomfortably from side to side. Things have been incredibly stressful for us lately. My new startup hit a huge snag, and Chloe and I needed a luxury vacation to decompress and save our failing marriage. Mom and Dad offered us your ticket. You work all the time anyway. You would not even enjoy the beach excursions. I stared at him in absolute disbelief. He was 34 years old, a serial entrepreneur who had never successfully launched a single business in his life, yet my parents treated him like a misunderstood visionary. Every failure of his was just a temporary setback. Every financial mistake was somehow someone else's fault. Meanwhile, I had built a logistics empire from the ground up, and my reward was being told to take an Uber home from the airport so my brother could enjoy the luxury I had paid for. My father coldly chimed in, his arms crossed over his chest. Your brother is going through a hard time with his investors. A luxury cruise will do wonders for his mindset and his marriage. You are single. You do not understand the heavy pressures of maintaining a household. Besides, you make plenty of money. You can always book another trip for yourself later. I looked at the $6,000 bag dangling from Chloe's shoulder. And my gift, I asked, pointing directly at the Chanel purse. Did Jamal need that for his marriage too? Chloe tightened her grip on the leather strap and smiled, a perfectly practiced expression of false sympathy that made my blood boil. Oh, Maya. Beatrice gave this to me yesterday. She said the color suited my complexion much better. You have always been a little too aggressive with your fashion choices, sweetie. It is just a bag. Do not be so materialistic. The absolute audacity of her words hung in the stale airport air. I was the one paying for their flights, their premium food, and the roof over their heads, yet I was being called materialistic by a woman proudly carrying my stolen gift. I looked at my father, waiting for him to correct her, to defend his daughter against this blatant disrespect. But Marcus simply checked his gold watch and sighed loudly. We are holding up the line, Marcus said coldly, turning his back to me. Go back to your office, Maya. We will call you when we dock in the Bahamas. Do not ruin this send-off for your mother. Chloe smirked, adjusting her designer sunglasses on top of her head. Come on, Maya, she said, her voice dripping with absolute condescension. You are such a strong, independent Black woman. You do not need vacations. You thrive on working hard. Let the real family bond. Just family, just family, just family. The phrase beat against the inside of my skull like a relentless metronome of rejection, echoing decades of being violently pushed aside for Jamal. When I won the state business competition in high school, my parents missed the award ceremony to attend Jamal's intramural basketball game. When I secured the venture capital funding to expand my logistics company across the East Coast, my mother changed the subject at our celebration dinner to loudly discuss Jamal's new leased sports car. Every major achievement I ever earned was minimized and brushed away, while every catastrophic failure of his was cushioned with endless cash comfort and praise. I bought the house, I bought the cruise, I bought their love, I bought nothing. The reality of my existence within this family crashed over me in a wave of freezing clarity. I did not scream. I did not cry. Crying was a vulnerability they would only weaponize against me. I stood perfectly still near the boarding gate and watched them hand their tickets to the agent. They laughed and chatted happily as they walked down the jet bridge, completely unbothered by the fact that they had just ripped my heart out. They were gone, sealed inside a metal tube, headed for a tropical paradise on my dime. I turned around and began walking back toward the priority lounge. My vision was tunneled, my breathing slow and measured. Suddenly, my phone dinged with an urgent bank alert. I pulled it out of my pocket, assuming it was a routine business notification from my accounting department. Instead, it was a high balance charge alert from my premium corporate credit card, the supplementary card I had given my father, strictly for medical emergencies. A $5,000 charge had just been processed by the cruise line. The description read, "Suite upgrade and premium beverage package." I stopped walking. The busy terminal around me seemed to fall completely terrifyingly silent. Jamal and Chloe had not just taken my ticket to steal my vacation. They had taken my father's emergency credit card and upgraded themselves to the penthouse suite, charging it directly to my personal banking account. They were preparing to drink expensive champagne and order room service on my tab, while telling me to take a cab back to an empty apartment. My facial expression turned to solid ice. The deep, agonizing sorrow that had been building in my chest instantly evaporated, replaced by a cold, calculating, and ruthless clarity. The mourning period for my family was officially over. I turned completely around, walked straight back into the VIP lounge, and found a quiet desk in the far corner. I sat down, opened my laptop, and stared at the screen. They wanted to see exactly how strong and independent I could be. I was about to show them. The leather chair in the corner of the Delta Priority Lounge offered a quiet isolation that sharply contrasted with the loud betrayal I had just experienced. I placed my hands flat on the cool aluminum surface of my laptop. I breathed in the scent of roasted coffee beans and expensive terminal perfume, letting the ambient hum of wealthy travelers wash over me. My screen illuminated, displaying the secure login portal for Onyx Holdings Logistics. I typed my password with steady, deliberate keystrokes. I bought the house. I bought the cruise. I bought their love. I bought nothing. The mantra pulsed in my mind perfectly, matching the rhythm of my typing. I navigated past my corporate logistics dashboards and clicked directly into the Executive Private Wealth portal. The screen populated with a dozen different accounts, trusts, and supplementary credit lines I managed. For 3 years, I had treated my family like a premium client account, ensuring their every need was met, their every desire funded, and their every mistake quietly erased. I clicked on the tab labeled Family Expenses. 2 supplementary black cards appeared on the screen. One belonged to Marcus Wilson, the other belonged to Beatrice Wilson. Beneath them sat a fresh pending charge of $5,000 for a luxury suite upgrade and premium beverage package. Jamal and Chloe were already celebrating on my dime, laughing at my expense while preparing to enjoy a tropical paradise I had orchestrated. I moved the cursor over the green active status button next to my father's card. With a single click, the button turned gray. Deactivated. I moved the cursor to my mother's card. Click. Deactivated. A small prompt appeared on the screen asking for a reason for cancellation. I typed 2 words: fraudulent activity. I leaned back in the chair, feeling a strange, hollow lightness taking root in my chest. The financial umbilical cord was officially cut. When my parents went to the onboard boutiques, or when Jamal tried to order his 3rd bottle of premium champagne by the pool, they would face the cold, hard reality of a declined card. But locking their spending limit was merely a temporary inconvenience. I needed to dismantle the entire foundation of their arrogance. I picked up my phone and dialed the direct line to David, my senior wealth manager. He handled the intricate web of my personal and corporate finances, and he knew exactly how much blood, sweat, and tears went into every dollar I earned. He picked up on the second ring. "Good morning, Maya," David said cheerfully. "I thought you were boarding a cruise right now. I was just reviewing the wire transfers for the port excursions you set up for your parents." "Change of plans, David," I replied, my voice stripped of all emotion, cold and sharp as cracked glass. "I need you to pull up the complete financial files for my parents. Specifically, I want to look at their debt history and credit reports from 36 months ago." I heard the rapid clicking of a keyboard on his end. The cheerful tone instantly vanished from his voice, replaced by the sharp professionalism I paid him for. "Pulling them up now, Maya. I have the files right here. Beatrice and Marcus Wilson. Their credit scores are still sitting in the low 500s. They are effectively blacklisted from any prime lending, luxury leasing, or traditional mortgage approvals. Tell me exactly why their credit is ruined, David. I know the answer, but I want to hear you read it from the official record right now." David paused, sensing the absolute gravity of the moment. "They faced total bankruptcy 3 years ago. Your father secretly took out a second mortgage on their original family home and co-signed 3 massive high-interest business loans. The funds were injected directly into a technology startup founded by your brother Jamal. The startup collapsed within 8 months due to gross mismanagement and misappropriation of funds. When the bank moved to foreclose on their home and seize their remaining assets, you stepped in to stop the bleeding. I closed my eyes, letting the facts settle over me like heavy stones. I had saved them from absolute ruin. When my mother had called me, weeping, terrified that her friends in the Atlanta Black elite society would find out they were destitute and facing public humiliation, I had written the checks. I paid off the immediate debts to keep my father out of federal court. I had been funding their lavish lifestyle ever since hiding their shameful secrets from the world to protect their fragile pride. Read me the current monthly expenses I cover for them, I commanded. David read down the list, his voice steady. You pay their monthly country club dues. You cover the lease on your mother's Mercedes and your father's Range Rover. You pay their premium health insurance premiums, their weekly landscaping service, and the maintenance on the Alpharetta property. You have single-handedly funded their entire existence for 3 years, Maya. They rely on your corporate umbrella for everything. And how did my brother thank me? I asked, more to myself than to David. He stole my luxury vacation, allowed his wife to insult my independence, and told me to take a cab home from the airport. Maya, David said, his tone turning cautious and urgent. I am seeing a brand new alert on the supplementary card you issued to your father. A $5,000 charge was just initiated at the cruise terminal by Jamal. Do you want me to dispute this as fraud and freeze the entire cruise payment? I can call the cruise line right now and have their boarding passes revoked before the ship even leaves the port. I can have them escorted off the vessel by port security. I looked out the window at a massive commercial plane lifting off the runway, ascending into the bright morning sky. Stopping them now would be far too easy. It would cause a chaotic scene at the port, but it would not teach them the devastating lesson they so desperately needed to learn. They needed to feel the absolute height of untouchable luxury before hitting the unforgiving concrete of reality. They needed to sail away on a cloud of arrogance, completely unaware that the ground beneath their feet was disappearing. No, I said softly, a dangerous smile touching my lips. Let them sail. Let them enjoy the ocean air and the grand illusion of their own superiority. Let them drink the champagne and pose for their high society pictures on the deck. I understand, David replied. Shall I just leave the supplementary cards frozen then? Yes, keep the cards permanently deactivated, I instructed. But David, I need you to do something much more important right now. Get my real estate attorney on the line immediately. Conference him in. We need to execute the eviction clause on the Alpharetta property today. Vance, my lead real estate attorney, picked up the conference call on the first ring. I did not waste time with pleasantries or small talk. I told him I needed to liquidate the Alpharetta property immediately. There was a heavy, stunned silence on the line. The property in question was not just a house. It was a $966,000 sprawling colonial estate in one of the most exclusive gated communities in North Atlanta. It boasted 6 bedrooms, a heated saltwater pool, an intricately manicured lawn, and a grand double staircase in the foyer. My mother, Beatrice, treated that house like her own personal kingdom. She hosted lavish garden parties for her elite social clubs, posting daily photos on Instagram, with captions boasting about family legacy, hard work, and generational wealth. She loved to give house tours to her friends, proudly showing off the custom marble countertops and the vaulted ceilings, as if she had laid every brick herself. The reality was completely different. The house did not belong to Marcus and Beatrice Wilson. Their names were nowhere near the deed. The estate was 100% owned by Onyx Holdings, LLC, my corporate entity. 3 years ago, when their financial house of cards collapsed due to Jamal's reckless spending, I bought the Alpharetta estate in all cash. I moved them in to save them the profound public humiliation of foreclosure. My parents had atrocious credit. They had secretly taken out a second mortgage on our original childhood home and co-signed 3 massive high-interest business loans to bail out Jamal's previous failed ventures. They had tanked their credit scores into the low 500s. They could not qualify for a loan on a used car, let alone a $1 million estate. I even let Jamal and his wife Chloe take over the entire fully finished basement. It was practically a house of its own, featuring 2 large bedrooms, a custom kitchen, and a private entrance. Chloe frequently complained that the basement kitchen cabinets were outdated completely, ignoring the fact that she was living in a luxury mansion for free. Jamal ran his endless string of failed startups from a leather office chair I bought living completely rent-free, while having the absolute nerve to mock my work ethic. To protect their fragile pride, I had allowed them to sign a formal lease agreement. It was a purely symbolic gesture to make them feel like they were maintaining their dignity. The monthly rent for $1 million estate was exactly $1. I never even cashed the checks. For 3 years, they had lived in absolute luxury, shielded from the harsh consequences of their own financial incompetence, solely because I provided the invisible safety net. They mistook my silent financial support for a permanent obligation. Vance cleared his throat, his lawyer instincts immediately kicking in. "Maya, you know I can list the property by tomorrow morning," he said carefully. "But we have a major logistical issue here. Your parents and your brother are legal tenants. Georgia tenant laws are very strict and highly protective. Even with a symbolic lease of $1 a month, you cannot just throw them out on the street. We have to serve them with a formal 30-day notice of eviction. Given the current legal backlog in the county, they could easily drag this out in civil court for months. They will claim squatters' rights, demand relocation fees, and make this a very public, very messy legal battle." I smiled a tight, humorless expression that did not reach my eyes. My family thought I was just a walking ATM, a convenient source of capital to fund their delusions. They had completely forgotten that I was a ruthless corporate negotiator who built a logistics empire from scratch. I do not do standard contracts, and I certainly do not leave loopholes. "Open the lease file, Vance," I instructed, my voice echoing with absolute authority in the quiet corner of the VIP lounge. "Scroll down to page 4. Look at Clause 4, Section B." I heard the muffled clicking of his mouse, then a sharp intake of breath over the speaker. The clause I had personally drafted 3 years ago was brutally specific. Any act of unauthorized financial fraud, theft, or deliberate fiscal damage committed against the landlord, the landlord's corporate entities, or the landlord's personal accounts by any residing tenant will result in the immediate non-negotiable termination of this lease agreement. All tenant rights will be instantly forfeited, and the property must be vacated within 24 hours. "Read it carefully, Vance," I said softly. Jamal just took a supplementary corporate emergency card belonging to Onyx Holdings. He used it without authorization to charge $5,000 for a luxury suite upgrade and a premium beverage package at the cruise terminal. That is not a simple misunderstanding. That is documented, verifiable credit card fraud. He committed a felony against his landlord. The lease is completely dead. I could hear the sheer admiration in Vance's voice when he finally spoke. "Maya, this is an ironclad breach of contract. With the bank timestamp on that fraudulent charge, they have zero legal standing. They have forfeited every single tenant protection they had. I can legally have the property vacated and the locks changed by tomorrow afternoon." "Exactly," I replied, leaning back in my chair. "But I do not want to just change the locks. I want to entirely sever my connection to that house. I do not want to deal with open houses, real estate agents, or private buyers touring the property while I handle this mess. I want it gone." I stared out the glass window at the tarmac, watching the luggage carts moving in perfect mechanical order. "Contact your network of institutional investors, Vance. Reach out to the corporate hedge funds and real estate portfolios that buy properties in bulk. Offer them the Alpharetta estate at a 10% discount under current market value. The only condition is that they must close the deal entirely in cash and take immediate possession of the property. Do not wait for Monday. Do not wait for the weekend. Find me a cash buyer. Today." Vance calls back in under 2 hours. The commercial real estate market is fiercely competitive, and an aggressive corporate portfolio manager desperately wants the property to add to their luxury rental fleet. They offer $1.1 million entirely in cash, waiving all inspections and contingencies. The only rigid stipulation is that the property must be completely vacant, broom swept, and handed over within 72 hours. I accept the offer immediately. I leave the airport and drive my personal car north toward Alpharetta. The transition from the crowded highway to the manicured tree-lined streets of the gated community feels completely different today. For years I drove through these wrought iron gates, feeling a sense of desperate obligation. Today, the illusion is broken. I am not a daughter coming to visit her family. I am a landlord coming to execute an eviction. I have already dispatched a premium rapid response corporate relocation crew. These are not standard movers. They are the high-end professionals hired to clear out bankrupt tech offices and foreclosed mansions in a matter of hours. When I pull into the circular driveway, 3 massive moving trucks are already idling. A team of 20 uniformed professionals stands waiting for my command. I unlock the massive front doors and let them in. I instruct the foreman to pack absolutely everything. Every piece of custom mahogany furniture, every designer throw pillow, every crystal vase, and every piece of artificial wealth my mother used to project her high society image. I route all the boxes to a secure climate-controlled storage facility downtown. I prepay the rental fee for exactly 30 days. After that, the monthly bill becomes Marcus and Beatrice's problem. While the crew systematically dismantles the upper floors, I walk down the hardwood stairs into the basement. Jamal's domain. The air down here smells of expensive cologne and absolute entitlement. I stand in the center of the expansive living area and survey the reality of my brother's devastating startup stress. Mounted on the wall is an 85-inch OLED television surrounded by next-generation gaming consoles, expensive soundbars, and virtual reality headsets. In the corner sits a custom-built ergonomic leather gaming chair that costs more than my first car. I walk toward his massive walk-in closet. Lined up on illuminated floating glass shelves are dozens of pairs of pristine limited edition luxury sneakers. Supreme, Balenciaga, Off-White. None of them look like they have ever touched the pavement. This was what my parents were secretly funding while crying to me about their impending bankruptcy. This was the lavish lifestyle my hard-earned corporate logistics money was subsidizing. They bled my accounts dry to ensure their golden boy never had to feel the uncomfortable sting of consequence, responsibility, or failure. They sacrificed my financial security so Jamal could play the role of a successful entrepreneur in a basement I owned. I signal for the movers to come downstairs. They descend like a silent, efficient army armed with packing tape, industrial bubble wrap, and flat, heavy-duty cartons. A mover wraps the massive television and slides it into a protective cardboard sleeve. Box by box. Lie by lie. Another mover sweeps the rows of untouched $1,000 sneakers into a large plastic bin, showing no reverence for the designer labels. Box by box. Lie by lie. They dismantle the expensive gaming chair, unplug the high-end espresso machine, and strip the Egyptian cotton sheets from the California king bed. Box by box, lie by lie. The repetition pulses in my blood, a steady, calming rhythm that grounds me as the physical manifestations of their blatant favoritism are unceremoniously shoved into brown cardboard. Each piece of industrial tape ripping across a box sounds like a heavy chain snapping. The suffocating weight of being the unloved, unappreciated workhorse of this family is being packed away right in front of my eyes. I watch the golden child's unearned sanctuary get stripped down to the bare, echoing drywall. There is no anger left in me. There is only the cold, clinical precision of a corporate execution. By Saturday afternoon, the sprawling estate is entirely empty. The grand foyer where my mother used to host her pretentious luncheons and sip champagne with women who judged my career is now just a vast, vacant space, reflecting the harsh afternoon sun. The voices of the moving crew have faded, the trucks having rolled out of the gates hours ago. The house is replaced by the profound cleansing silence of a terminated contract. I stand on the marble threshold as my phone vibrates heavily in my palm. It is a secure notification from my corporate banking portal. The wire transfer has officially cleared the Federal Reserve. $1.1 million has just been deposited directly into the Onyx Holdings master account. The title has been legally transferred. The property no longer belongs to me, and it certainly no longer belongs to Marcus and Beatrice Wilson. A heavy commercial work van pulls into the driveway, tires crunching over the pristine gravel. The locksmith steps out carrying a heavy metal toolbox. I watch him approach the ornate front doors. Within 20 minutes, the old locks are aggressively drilled out, and the shiny, heavy brass of the new high-security deadbolts are firmly installed. The satisfying metallic click of the new keys turning in the cylinders echoes through the empty foyer, like a bank vault sealing shut. The foreman of the rapid response crew approached me, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his gloved hand. The massive moving trucks were fully loaded, their heavy rear doors rolled down and latched securely. "Where to Miss Wilson?" he asked, holding out a digital tablet for my signature. I did not give him the address for the premium climate-controlled storage vaults in Buckhead. I did not select the pristine facility with 24-hour security and temperature regulation that wealthy clients typically use to protect their fine art and antiques. I pulled a folded slip of paper from my pocket and handed it to him. It was a gritty industrial zip code on the far southern outskirts of Atlanta. The drive took nearly an hour. The scenery outside my car window shifted dramatically, transitioning from the manicured tree-lined boulevards of Alpharetta to a landscape of cracked asphalt, abandoned warehouses, and chain-link fences topped with rusted barbed wire. This was the reality my parents had truly earned. This was the destination their financial negligence had secured. I pulled into the gravel lot of a rundown public storage facility. The summer Georgia heat was already baking the rows of corrugated metal doors, turning each unit into a suffocating, unventilated oven. The moving trucks parked clumsily in the narrow lanes. The movers swung open the heavy doors, and the sheer absurdity of my family's fake wealth was exposed under the harsh industrial sun. I stood back with my arms crossed and watched as they began to unload. Chloe's custom cedar wardrobe boxes were the first to come off the truck. Inside hung her expensive winter furs, the mink and fox coats she had bullied my brother into buying. She wore them strictly for high society Instagram photos because it rarely snowed in Georgia. The movers shoved the wardrobe boxes deep into Unit 412, a raw, dusty metal box that felt like a furnace. The oppressive heat would ruin the delicate pelts within weeks. Next came Jamal's immaculate sneaker collection. The rare limited edition shoes he bought using my parents' grocery money while claiming his startup was just waiting on investor funding. The clear acrylic display boxes were tossed into the back corner, stacking precariously against the rusted tin wall. Gritty dust immediately settled over the pristine shoes. Then came Beatrice's prized furniture. The imported Italian velvet sofas she loved to show off to her friends. The antique gilded mirrors she loved to pose in front of. The massive mahogany dining table where she had sat just last month and lectured me about my lack of a husband. The movers carried the expensive pieces inside, resting the plush velvet cushions directly onto the stained concrete floor. I watched it all disappear into the dark corners of the storage unit. Every single item represented a lie. Every designer label was purchased with my money or secured by my silent financial protection. They loved their things more than they loved me. They protected their image more than they protected their daughter. Fake wealth, fake love, fake family, fake wealth, fake love, fake family. The rhythm beat against my ribs, a steady, empowering pulse. I was stripping away their armor piece by piece, box by box. When the trucks were completely empty, I walked into the cramped, poorly lit front office. A bored clerk sat behind a scratched plexiglass window, chewing gum loudly while staring at a small television. The room smelled of stale cigarette smoke and cheap air freshener. I slid a thick stack of $20 bills through the metal transaction slot. "I am prepaying for exactly 1 month," I told him, my voice carrying a quiet, absolute authority. 30 days. Do not put a credit card on file. Do not set up automatic payments. When these 30 days expire, you lock the unit and you send the entire contents straight to public auction. The clerk barely looked at me. He printed a faded yellow receipt and pushed it back through the slot, along with a cheap brass padlock. The entirety of the Wilson family legacy, all their bragging rights and artificial superiority, was now secured by a $5 lock in a forgotten part of the city. I walked back to my car, the loose gravel crunching sharply beneath my shoes. The humid air felt heavy, but my lungs expanded with a brilliant, intoxicating freedom. I slid into the driver's seat and pushed the ignition button. The air conditioning blasted against my face, instantly cooling the sweat on my forehead. I rested my hands on the steering wheel, taking a long, deep breath. My phone vibrated violently in the center console. A sharp, cheerful ping cut through the silence of the car. I picked it up. It was a Facebook notification. Beatrice Wilson has just uploaded a new photo. She could not help herself. She had to twist the knife. I opened the application and the screen instantly filled with a picture-perfect image of high society bliss. My mother was lounging on a pristine white deck chair on the private balcony of the penthouse suite. She was holding a crystal martini glass, the olive perfectly positioned, looking effortlessly wealthy. Marcus sat beside her in a tailored linen shirt, staring out at the endless blue ocean with a look of supreme satisfaction. Standing directly behind them, wrapping their arms tightly around my parents' shoulders, were Jamal and Chloe. They were all displaying massive, radiant smiles, looking like a royal family on a well-deserved holiday. I read the caption typed beneath the photo. "So blessed for my amazing husband and beautiful son. Family is everything. Family is everything. Family is everything. Family is everything." The phrase echoed in my mind, but it no longer carried the power to wound me. The sting of rejection had been entirely sterilized by the absolute certainty of my retaliation. They were smiling on a massive luxury ship that I had paid for. They were drinking expensive liquor charged to my stolen credit card. They were posing together feeling untouchable, entirely oblivious to the fact that they were now officially homeless and that everything they owned was currently baking in a metal box. I stared at the photo for a long time. I looked at my mother's relaxed, arrogant posture. I looked at Jamal's entitled, victorious smirk. They wanted me to see this. They wanted me to feel small, abandoned, and isolated in Atlanta while they conquered the ocean. I tapped the screen. I hit the like button. A tiny blue thumb appeared beneath their luxury vacation photo, a silent acknowledgement that I was watching. Then I opened the comment box. My fingers hovered over the digital keyboard. I did not write a paragraph explaining my pain. I did not express my anger or demand an apology. I simply typed 3 words. Enjoy the view. I hit send, dropped the phone back into the cup holder, and drove away from the rusted gates. I returned to the absolute climate-controlled sanctuary of my Buckhead penthouse. The floor-to-ceiling windows offer a pristine panoramic view of the Atlanta skyline. The marble floors gleam under the recessed lighting. The air here is perfectly still, smelling of expensive lilies and quiet success. This is a fortress I built entirely with my own hands, my own intellect, and my own relentless drive. It is a space completely devoid of my family's chaotic, parasitic energy. I pour myself a glass of chilled, sparkling water and stand by the glass, looking down at the crawling traffic miles below. My phone shatters the immaculate silence. It is not a passive notification this time. It is an incoming call, the aggressive vibration rattling against the granite countertop. The caller ID flashes my mother's name, Beatrice. I do not answer immediately. I watch the screen illuminate, letting it ring twice, 3 times. For my entire life, that ringing meant a demand was coming. It meant a crisis needed funding, a mistake needed burying, a fragile ego needed validation. Today, the power dynamic has fundamentally shifted. I press the green icon and lift the phone to my ear. Maya Beatrice shrieks before I can even utter a greeting. Her voice is shrill, breathless, and vibrating with a frantic, barely contained panic. The background noise on the line is unmistakable. The echoing, polished acoustics of a luxury cruise ship lobby the faint sound of a grand piano, playing the murmur of wealthy passengers milling about. Maya, something is horribly wrong with the accounts. You need to call the bank manager right now, she demands, her voice dropping into a harsh, desperate whisper as she attempts to maintain her dignity in a highly public space. Jamal and Chloe went to book the Platinum Couples Spa package, $2,000 for the seaweed wraps and the deep tissue massages. The card declined. It was embarrassing, Maya, completely humiliating. Then I tried to put my signature card down for the concierge deposit. Declined. Everything is declining. I take a slow, deliberate sip of my water. The condensation on the glass is freezing against my palm. Is that all, Beatrice? I ask, my voice echoing with a chilling, detached professionalism. No, it is not all, she snaps, her panic rapidly curdling into hysteria. The purser is standing right here at the mahogany desk. He called us down from the upper decks. He says the $5,000 charge for the luxury suite upgrade has been flagged by the merchant bank. He is demanding a secondary form of payment immediately. Maya, he is threatening to demote us. He is threatening to pack our bags and move us to a windowless interior cabin on the lower decks with the budget passengers. Do you understand how humiliating this is? People are staring. The staff is looking at us like we are criminals. Fix it. Call your bank and fix it right now. I lean back against the cool leather of my sofa, staring out at the skyline. I cannot fix it, Beatrice. The fraud department locked the cards. Fraud. She gasps the word, catching in her throat. What fraud? It is our money. We have plenty of money. It is Onyx Holdings corporate capital, I correct her, stripping every ounce of daughterly warmth from my tone. Jamal used an unauthorized corporate emergency card to process an offshore terminal charge. He did not have signatory clearance for a $5,000 luxury upgrade. The banking algorithm automatically flagged it as felony wire fraud. The accounts are completely frozen. The cards are dead. I cannot override a federal fraud protocol for a thief. The silence on the line is profound. I can hear the shallow, rapid intake of her breath. The crushing reality of their vulnerability is finally sinking in. They are floating in international waters surrounded by opulent luxury they have absolutely no claim to, entirely stripped of their invisible armor. They are stranded. The cards are dead. The safety net is dead. The ATM is closed. The cards are dead. The safety net is dead. The ATM is closed. Then the shock evaporates, replaced by a venomous, hateful rage. You did this on purpose, Beatrice hisses, abandoning all pretense of volume control. You vindictive, ungrateful little girl. You set us up to be embarrassed in front of these people. You locked those cards intentionally. You let Jamal commit fraud intentionally, I reply smoothly. I'm simply allowing the consequences to process. You listen to me, she screams, her voice cracking as the cruise purser likely steps closer to the desk. You wait until we get back to Atlanta. I will destroy you. I will call the Jacksons, the DuPonts, the entire country club board. I will tell everyone how you abandoned your own flesh and blood. I will ruin your reputation among the black elite in this city. You will be an absolute pariah. No one will do business with a ruthless woman who leaves her own family stranded to be publicly humiliated. They were never your friends, Beatrice. I state, my voice dropping to a deadly calm. They were an audience. They were an audience you bought with my money. And the show is officially over. Enjoy the lower decks. You are dead to us, she screams, the raw desperation tearing at her vocal cords. Do you hear me, Maya? You are dead to us. Dead to you. Dead to the endless financial drains. Dead to the relentless emotional manipulation. Dead to the crushing weight of unearned loyalty. Dead to you. Dead to the endless financial drains. Dead to the relentless emotional manipulation. Dead to the crushing weight of unearned loyalty. The words wash over me, leaving nothing but a profound, absolute peace. I pull the phone away from my ear. I tap the red icon, instantly terminating the connection and silencing her hysteria. I open her contact file on my screen. I select block caller. I press confirm. 7 days pass. The pristine Caribbean waters and the endless buffet lines did absolutely nothing to wash away the crushing public humiliation of their final days at sea. When Marcus, Beatrice, Jamal, and Chloe finally dragged their luggage through the international arrivals terminal at Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson Airport, they are not walking like the conquering royalty they pretended to be. They walk like prisoners of war. Their platinum cards remain frozen. The Onyx Holdings corporate accounts remain impenetrable to avoid being held at the port by international maritime authorities for their unpaid, fraudulently acquired suite upgrades and exorbitant bar tabs. Beatrice had been forced to make the most agonizing phone call of her life. She had to call Chloe's parents. She had to swallow her massive inflated pride and beg her middle-class in-laws for a wire transfer just to settle their debts and tip the cruise staff. The humiliation burned in Beatrice's chest. It burned in her throat. It burned in her mind. Now, standing on the humid curbside of the airport, the reality of their frozen assets hits them again. There is no sleek black town car waiting for them. There is no private chauffeur holding a placard with the Wilson family name. They are forced to hail a budget third-tier airport taxi. The vehicle is a battered yellow minivan with a sputtering engine and a faint smell of stale cigarettes and cheap pine air freshener. Chloe recoils as Jamal opens the sliding door. The vinyl seats are cracked and sticky in the brutal Georgia heat. "I cannot believe we have to ride in this ghetto contraption!" Chloe whines dramatically, waving her hand in front of her face, as if trying to swat away the poverty. "My parents had to wire us money like we are broke teenagers, and now we are riding in a rolling trash can. This is entirely your sister's fault, Jamal. She humiliated us. She humiliated my family." Jamal wraps his arm around Chloe's shoulders, his jaw set in a rigid, arrogant line. He is completely oblivious to the sheer gravity of the felony he committed. He views the unauthorized $5,000 charge as a simple family tax. "Relax, babe," he says smoothly, trying to salvage his shattered ego. "Maya is just throwing one of her little power trip tantrums. She gets stressed at work and takes it out on us. We are going to go home, take a hot shower, and then I am going to call her. I am going to put Maya exactly in her place. She is going to turn those cards back on today, and she is going to apologize for embarrassing Mom." Beatrice nods furiously from the front passenger seat. She does not feel gratitude for the years of free housing. She does not feel remorse for her son's theft. She only feels a toxic, vengeful entitlement. "She is going to do a lot more than apologize," Beatrice snaps, clutching her designer handbag against her chest. "I am going to make her pay for that phone call. I am going to demand she increase our monthly allowance for the emotional distress she put us through." She forgets who raised her. She forgets who made her into the woman she is. She is nothing without this family. Nothing without this family. Nothing without this family. Marcus remains silent in the back, staring out the window at the passing highway. The patriarch of the family has been reduced to a passive spectator, too weak to stop his son's theft and too proud to admit his own failures. The long drive north toward Alpharetta takes an hour. With every passing mile, the tension inside the cramped, foul-smelling taxi thickens. They spend the entire journey plotting their retaliation. They script exactly how they will scream at Maya. They rehearse exactly how they will threaten to cut her off from their affection if she does not immediately reinstate their lavish lifestyle. They truly believe they hold the power. They truly believe the million-dollar estate waiting for them at the end of the road is their permanent, untouchable fortress. They believe they are royalty. They believe they are landlords. They believe they are untouchable. The taxi finally exits the congested highway and turns onto the pristine, tree-lined avenues of their exclusive, gated community. Beatrice visibly relaxes. Her posture straightens. The familiar sight of the manicured lawns, the massive oak trees, and the towering brick facades restores her shattered confidence. The neighborhood makes her feel superior again. "Just pull up to the circular driveway and pop the trunk," Beatrice instructs the taxi driver haughtily, her tone dripping with unearned superiority. "And try not to leak oil on the pavers." The yellow minivan turns through the open iron gates of the estate. The tires crunch over the familiar, pristine gravel. Jamal leans forward, ready to step out and reclaim his basement sanctuary. Chloe is already complaining about needing a nap. But the taxi does not stop at the front doors. The driver hits the brakes halfway up the driveway, the tires skidding slightly on the gravel. "What are you doing?" Jamal snaps, leaning forward to look out the windshield. "Drive all the way up." The driver points a calloused finger toward the front of the house. "There is no room to pull up, man," the driver says flatly. Jamal, Beatrice, and Chloe follow the driver's gaze. The grand, sprawling facade of the Alpharetta estate looks exactly the same, but everything else is fundamentally, horrifyingly wrong. Parked directly in front of the grand mahogany double doors is a silver Honda Odyssey minivan. It is covered in bumper stickers and has a roof rack strapped with bicycles. The massive front doors of the mansion are propped wide open. A golden retriever is bounding happily across the manicured front lawn, barking at a squirrel. A middle-aged white man in cargo shorts and a faded polo shirt is standing on the marble threshold holding a large cardboard box of groceries. A woman in a summer dress is walking out of the house laughing as she reaches into the back of the silver minivan to grab a case of bottled water. Beatrice's jaw drops. The blood instantly drains from her face, leaving her a ghostly, sickly gray. "What is happening?" Chloe whispers, her voice trembling, as she presses her face against the taxi window. "Jamal, whose car is that? Who are those people?" Jamal does not answer. He cannot answer. His breath catches in his throat as he stares at the strangers, casually unloading groceries into the house he thought was his. He stares at the open front doors. He stares at the missing custom curtains in the front windows. The heavy, ornate locks on the front doors gleam brightly in the afternoon sun. They are brand new. The illusion shatters. The fortress is gone. The bill has finally come due. Marcus refuses to process the scene unfolding in front of him. His mind, conditioned by years of my silent financial bailouts, simply rejects the reality of the strange minivan and the unfamiliar faces. He squares his shoulders, his jaw tight with indignation. He storms up the long, sweeping driveway, his expensive leather loafers kicking up the pristine gravel. He ignores the strange man holding the box of groceries. He marches straight past the golden retriever. He steps onto the expansive marble threshold of the grand double doors, moving with the absolute blind entitlement of a man who believes the world bends to his will. He reaches for the heavy brass keypad mounted on the doorframe. He aggressively punches in his personal 6-digit code. He expects the familiar, satisfying green glow. He expects the heavy internal deadbolt to slide open, welcoming him back to his unearned kingdom. A sharp, flat beep echoes on the porch. The keypad flashes a brilliant, unforgiving crimson. Red light. Access denied. Marcus scowls, muttering under his breath about low batteries and system glitches. He presses his thumb against the keypad again, punching the numbers harder, faster, willing the machinery to obey his command. A sharp, flat beep. The keypad flashes crimson. Red light. Access denied. His patience evaporates. He digs his hand into his tailored linen trousers and pulls out his heavy ring of house keys. He selects the long brass key he has used every single day for the past 3 years. He shoves it toward the keyhole. It hits a solid, unyielding barrier. The lock cylinder has been entirely replaced. The key does not fit. It does not even slide halfway into the mechanism. Red light. Access denied. The heavy wooden door swings inward before Marcus can force the key a 3rd time. The stranger in the cargo shorts stands in the doorway. He is no longer smiling at his family. His expression is hard, defensive, and deeply suspicious. He looks at Marcus, then down at the ring of keys in Marcus's hand. "Can I help you?" the man asks, his voice thick with the unmistakable authority of a rightful homeowner. "What exactly are you doing on my porch?" Marcus stiffens his pride, inflating his chest. He points a rigid finger at the man's face. "What am I doing? What are you doing in my house? This is my property. You need to pack up your little minivan and get off my driveway before I call the authorities." The man does not flinch. He steps fully into the doorway, physically blocking the entrance. "Your property," the man repeats, his tone shifting from confused to openly hostile. "I just closed on this house 48 hours ago. I wired $1.1 million in cash to an entity called Onyx Holdings. I have the deed in my safe. You are trespassing. Step off my porch." The name of my corporate entity hits Marcus like a physical blow to the stomach. Onyx Holdings. The name I used to buy the house when they were drowning in debt. The name on the lease agreement they paid $1 single a month for. The reality finally breaches his wall of denial. Beatrice, however, completely shatters. The carefully cultivated high society composure she has worn like a mask for decades disintegrates in a matter of seconds. She pushes past Jamal and Chloe, storming up the driveway with her expensive handbag swinging wildly against her hip. "You are lying!" Beatrice screams. Her voice is shrill, unhinged, and echoing off the neighboring brick mansions. She does not sound like a refined country club socialite. She sounds absolutely feral. "You are a squatter. You broke into our home. Where is my Italian velvet sofa? Where is my mahogany dining table? What did you do with my things, you thief? Lady, you need to back up right now, the man warns, raising his hands in a defensive gesture. The house was completely empty when we did the final walkthrough yesterday. It was broom swept. There was no furniture. Now get off my property. Beatrice lunges forward. She tries to push past the homeowner, her manicured nails clawing at the doorframe. Get out of my house, she shrieks, her face twisted in a mask of pure ugly desperation. Give me back my house. Marcus, driven by his wife's hysteria and his own crumbling ego, throws his weight forward. He shoves his shoulder against the heavy wooden door, trying to physically force his way past the man. He is determined to breach the perimeter to stand in the foyer and reclaim his stolen dignity through sheer physical intimidation. Jamal rushes up the stairs behind them, posturing aggressively, shouting empty threats about respect and lawsuits, while Chloe stands crying on the driveway, whining about how ghetto this entire situation has become. They are a spectacle. They are the exact kind of loud, chaotic disruption my mother used to judge from behind her tinted car windows. The new owner does not retreat. He plants his feet firmly on the hardwood floor of his new foyer. He reaches into the pocket of his cargo shorts and pulls out his smartphone. He does not dial a number. He simply swipes his thumb across the screen and hits a large digital panic button linked directly to the neighborhood's private security network and the local police precinct. I warned you, the man says, his voice cold and steady. Beatrice is still screaming, demanding answers, demanding her furniture, demanding her life back. Marcus is still pushing against the doorframe. Jamal is still shouting. They are completely consumed by their own outrage, entirely blind to the gravity of their actions. They are committing trespassing and attempted breaking and entering in one of the wealthiest zip codes in the state. Less than 2 minutes later, the sharp, piercing wail of sirens cuts through the humid afternoon air. The sound echoes down the manicured street, growing louder and more urgent by the second. Red and blue lights begin to flash against the tall brick walls of the surrounding estates, signaling the absolute end of the Wilson family's reign. 2 black and white Alpharetta police cruisers tear around the corner of the manicured cul-de-sac. Their tires chirp against the asphalt as they angle aggressively into the driveway, boxing in the yellow airport taxi. The flashing lights paint the pristine brick facade of the mansion in harsh, strobing colors. Marcus does not retreat. He actually steps forward, straightening his wrinkled linen shirt, adjusting his posture to radiate the absolute authority he has wielded his entire life. He completely believes the police are his personal security force. He expects them to immediately recognize his status, apprehend the intruders, and restore order to his universe. "Officer, thank God you are here!" Marcus booms, his voice carrying the deep, resonant cadence of an aggrieved patriarch. He points a rigid, accusatory finger at the man standing on the porch. "I want these people arrested immediately. They have broken into my home, vandalized my locks, and are currently trespassing on my private property." The 2 officers step out of their vehicles. They are unhurried, their hands resting cautiously near their utility belts. They assess the chaotic scene: the screaming woman in designer clothes, the posturing young man, the crying girl by the taxi, and the calm homeowner standing on the porch with his family. "Sir, step back from the door," the lead officer commands, his tone flat and entirely unimpressed by Marcus's theatrical display. "Who called this in?" "I did," the new owner says, raising his hand slightly. He remains firmly planted on the threshold. "My name is David Miller. I am the legal owner of this property. This man and his family showed up in a taxi, tried to force their way through my front door, and began screaming at my wife and children." "He is a liar!" Marcus shouts, stepping closer to the officer. "Do I look like a common criminal? I am Marcus Wilson. This is the Wilson family estate. We have lived here for 3 years. Ask any of these neighbors." Marcus gestures broadly toward the street. The flashing lights have drawn an audience. The Jacksons are standing at the end of their driveway. The DuPonts are peering through their wrought iron gates. The very high society elite Beatrice had spent years trying to impress are now watching them like reality television entertainment. The lead officer holds up a hand, silencing Marcus. "I do not care what the neighbors say, Mr. Wilson. I care about documentation. Do you have your driver's license? Do you have a utility bill? Do you have anything proving you reside at this address?" "Of course I do." Marcus snaps his arrogance, completely blinding him to the trap he is walking into. He turns to his wife, who is currently hyperventilating near the taxi. Beatrice, pull up the utility bills on your phone. Show the officer the water and electric statements. Show him our names on the accounts. Beatrice frantically digs into her oversized leather handbag. She pulls out her smartphone, her manicured fingers trembling violently as she taps the screen. She opens her email application. She opens the banking application. Her face, already pale, turns entirely bloodless. Marcus, she stammers, her voice dropping to a terrified whisper. The accounts, everything is locked. I cannot access the portal. The login is disabled. Give me the phone, Marcus demands, snatching the device from her hands. He aggressively taps the screen, expecting his sheer willpower to bypass the security protocols. The screen remains frozen on an access denied error. The digital walls of Onyx Holdings have closed around them, shutting them out completely. While Marcus fumbles helplessly with the phone, David Miller calmly walks down the porch steps. He is holding a thick manila folder. He extends it toward the lead officer. Here is the certified deed, officer, David says, his voice devoid of panic. Here are the closing documents stamped and notarized 48 hours ago. I purchased this property directly from the corporate holding company, Onyx Holdings, LLC. The officer takes the folder. He opens it, shining his heavy tactical flashlight over the crisp, legally binding pages. He examines the signatures. The state seals the transfer of ownership. He pulls his radio from his shoulder. Dispatch, run a property check on this address, the officer requests. The static crackles. The seconds stretch into an agonizing eternity. Marcus stares at the folder in the officer's hands. The name of my corporate entity echoes in his mind, striking the final, fatal blow against his pride. Onyx Holdings. He knows that name. He signed a lease agreement with that name. He accepted a monthly allowance from the bank account tied to that name. He thought he was the master of the house, but he was only a tenant. He was a tenant living entirely on the grace of the daughter he discarded. Not my house, not my daughter. The radio crackles again. The dispatcher's voice is crisp and clear, cutting through the humid Georgia air. Affirmative. The property transferred ownership 2 days ago. Registered owner is David Miller. Previous owner was Onyx Holdings, LLC. Not my house, not my daughter. The reality crushes Marcus. The physical sensation is suffocating. He feels his chest cave inward. He feels the unearned superiority drain out of his veins. He is standing in the middle of a driveway he does not own, in a neighborhood he cannot afford, wearing clothes purchased with money he did not earn. He is nothing. Not my house, not my daughter. The lead officer snaps the folder shut and hands it back to David Miller. The officer turns to face Marcus. His expression is no longer inquiring. It is absolutely resolute. Sir, the officer states, his voice carrying the finality of a judge delivering a sentence. Your name is not on this deed. Your name is not on this property. You have absolutely no legal right to be standing here. Marcus opens his mouth, but no words come out. His legendary voice has completely evaporated. If you do not step off this property immediately, the officer continues, resting his hand firmly on his belt, you and your family are going to be arrested for trespassing and disturbing the peace. I suggest you get back in that taxi and leave right now. The silence that falls over the driveway is absolute. The only sound is the low hum of the police cruiser engines. Jamal stops posturing. Chloe stops crying. Marcus stands frozen, thoroughly and publicly castrated of his pride. He slowly turns his head and looks toward the street. He sees the Jacksons whispering. He sees the DuPonts pointing. The absolute, inescapable humiliation burns him down to the marrow. Beatrice cannot accept this. She cannot process the reality of her total social destruction. Her mind snaps back to the only source of power she believes she still has to manipulate. She rips her phone from Marcus's lifeless grip. Her fingers fly across the keypad, her eyes wild, her breathing erratic. She furiously dials Maya. The ringing pierces the quiet elegance of my penthouse. The screen of my phone lights up against the dark granite countertop, displaying Beatrice's name in flashing white letters. I do not rush. I walk over to the espresso machine, pour a fresh cup of dark roast coffee, and let the device vibrate twice more before I press the green icon. I tap the speakerphone button and set the device down. Beatrice screams. Her voice is so loud, so completely stripped of its usual manufactured grace, that the audio distorts through the small speaker. You sold our house. You sold our home right out from under us. There are strangers living in my house. The police are here threatening to arrest your father. You call these officers right now and tell them there has been a mistake. You tell them this is the Wilson estate. I take a slow, deliberate sip of my coffee. The rich, bitter taste grounds me. I listen to the chaotic background noise filtering through the connection. I hear the crackle of a police radio. I hear the heavy, rapid breathing of my father. I hear the muffled whimpers of my sister-in-law. I did not sell your house, Beatrice. I state my voice perfectly level, slicing through her hysteria like a scalpel. I sold my house. What are you talking about? She shrieks, her panic escalating into pure frenzy. We signed the deed. Marcus signed the paperwork 3 years ago. We are the owners. You just helped with the down payment. You really never read the documents you signed, do you? I reply, letting a cold razor-sharp edge enter my tone. You never owned that property. 3 years ago, when you and Marcus were drowning in secret debt, when the bank was 30 days away from foreclosing on your previous home, you came to me begging for a bailout. I did not give you a down payment. I purchased the Alpharetta estate entirely in cash through my private wealth management firm, Onyx Holdings LLC. The line goes dead silent for a fraction of a second. The name of the company has finally registered. You are lying! Beatrice gasps, but the absolute terror in her voice betrays her. I am the sole proprietor of Onyx Holdings. I continue methodically dismantling her reality brick by brick. Onyx Holdings is the registered owner of the estate. You and Marcus were simply tenants. You signed a highly specific, legally binding residential lease agreement. I allowed you to live in a $3 million mansion for the microscopic rent of exactly $1 a month. I paid the property taxes. I paid the maintenance fees. I subsidized your entire fake aristocratic lifestyle. You cannot just kick us out on the street. Jamal's voice cuts in, sounding remarkably small and terrified. We have tenant rights. You have to give us a 30-day eviction notice. I know the law, Maya. You are breaking the law. You do not know anything about the law, Jamal. I reply, my voice dripping with absolute contempt. But you are about to learn. Let me refresh your memory on the terms of your $1 lease. Please refer to Section 4, Clause B, the Morality and Financial Conduct Clause. It clearly states that if the tenant or any dependent of the tenant residing on the premises commits a financial crime act of fraud or theft against the landlord or any affiliated corporate entity, the lease is immediately rendered null and void. I pause, letting the silence stretch, letting the trap completely close around them. There is no 30-day notice for a breached fraud clause, I explain softly. When you stood at the concierge desk on that luxury cruise ship and fraudulently used a frozen corporate card belonging to Onyx Holdings to upgrade to a $5,000 suite, you committed felony wire fraud against your landlord. You triggered the immediate termination clause. You broke the lease, Jamal. I did not evict you. You evicted yourselves. The silence on the other end of the line is absolute. It is the sound of a total catastrophic collapse. I can hear Marcus breathing heavily. The patriarch of the Wilson family, the man who demanded respect, who demanded my financial obedience while treating me like a second-class citizen, is entirely broken. He realizes he has been legally, financially, and intellectually outmaneuvered. His ego has been completely atomized in front of his wealthy neighbors and the local police. He has nothing to say. He has no authority left to project. Then the silence is broken by a sudden scuffle. I hear the phone being snatched. Maya. How could you do this? A high-pitched, trembling voice cries out. It is Chloe, the same woman who moments ago was complaining about the indignity of riding in a ghetto taxi. Now she is weaponizing her tears, deploying a perfectly practiced, breathless fragility. She sounds like a wounded animal playing the ultimate victim card. Maya, please, Chloe sobs, her voice echoing with manufactured innocence. How could you be so cruel? How could you do this to us? How could you do this to children? We have absolutely nowhere to go. We are standing on the street like criminals. Where are my things? Where is my designer wardrobe? Where are my custom shoes? You cannot just steal my property. You have to tell these police officers to let us inside to get our belongings. Please, Maya, I am begging you. Have a heart. I set my coffee mug down on the marble counter. The sheer audacity of her entitlement is breathtaking. She is not crying for the family. She is not crying for her husband's criminal actions. She is crying for her shoes. She is trying to use her tears to manipulate me, relying on the same societal conditioning she uses to get her way in every other aspect of her life. Your things are perfectly safe, Chloe. I state, my voice devoid of a single ounce of empathy. Where are they? She sniffles, a tiny glimmer of greedy hope returning to her tone. They are exactly where they belong, I reply. Before she can ask another question, I press the end call button. I block her number. I block Jamal's number. I block my father's number. I walk over to the expansive windows and look out over the city. The sun is beginning to set, casting a warm, golden glow over the Atlanta skyline. The Wilson family is currently standing on a sidewalk surrounded by police, entirely locked out of their fake kingdom, with only the clothes on their backs. The eviction is complete. The stage is set for the final reckoning. The phone vibrates against the marble countertop. It is a harsh, jarring sound in the quiet sanctuary of my penthouse. The caller ID displays Chloe's name. I had blocked my father. I had blocked Beatrice. I had blocked Jamal. I deliberately left the sister-in-law unblocked, anticipating exactly this moment. I know the psychology of a woman like Chloe. She cannot stand to have the last word denied to her. She cannot tolerate a narrative where she is not the central aggrieved victim. I press the green icon. I do not speak. I let the open line sit in absolute, terrifying silence. Maya, Chloe snaps. Her voice is no longer trembling. The manufactured tears have evaporated. The fragile, wounded bird routine has been entirely discarded. She sounds sharp, entitled, and intensely hostile. You need to calm down. You are acting completely erratic. You are being angry and aggressive, and frankly, your behavior is deeply triggering. She uses the language of therapy like a weapon. She uses the words angry and aggressive with calculated, racialized precision. She expects me to yell. She expects me to defend myself. She expects me to play the stereotype she has weaponized her entire life so she can feel justified in her victimhood. I do not yell. I do not defend myself. I do not raise my voice a single decibel. Are you finished, I ask? My tone is smooth, flat, and colder than the ice in my glass. I am not finished. Chloe demands, her voice echoing over the speakerphone, clearly projecting to the rest of the displaced family standing on the driveway. You are stealing my property. You are holding my belongings hostage. My father's legal team is on retainer. They will destroy you in court, Maya. They will bury you in litigation. You will return my designer wardrobe, you will return my custom shoes, and you will return every single piece of jewelry inside that house right now. I pull my laptop toward me. My fingers glide over the keyboard, calling up a pre-scheduled email draft. I am not holding anything hostage, Chloe. I state, my voice perfectly measured. I am a meticulous landlord. When a lease is terminated due to felony fraud, the landlord has the right to secure the premises and remove abandoned property. I did not keep your things. I had a professional moving company pack them in heavy-duty industrial trash bags this morning before the new owner arrived. Where are they? Chloe snarls. Tell me where my things are. I hit send on the email. Check your phone, I instruct her. I just sent you the address. I hear the faint ping of an email notification through the open line. I hear Chloe tapping the screen. I hear her sharp intake of breath as she reads the name of the business. Self-store. Secure. Chloe reads aloud, her voice dripping with absolute disgust. What is this? This is in a terrible zip code. This is an industrial zone. Maya, my clothes are couture. They are delicate silks and Italian leather. You put them in an un-air-conditioned corrugated metal box in the middle of the Georgia heat. They will be ruined. They are in Unit 402, I reply, entirely ignoring her outrage. They are sitting on a concrete floor. The facility is secured behind a heavy chain-link fence. You can access the property 24 hours a day. You just need the 6-digit gate code to get through the perimeter. Then give me the code, Chloe demands, her impatience turning into a frantic whine. Give me the code so I can send a luxury transport service to rescue my things from that ghetto metal box. Give me the code right now. I lean back in my chair. I look out over the city lights beginning to flicker against the darkening sky. I let the silence stretch again, tightening the tension, letting the anticipation build until it is almost unbearable. The code, I say, softly, my voice carrying clearly through the speakerphone for Jamal to hear, is a very special date. The code is the exact date of Jamal's anniversary with his first fiancée. The silence on the other end of the line is sudden and absolute. It is a heavy, suffocating silence. What Chloe asks, her voice dropping to a confused, hesitant whisper. What are you talking about? You remember her, do you not, Chloe? I ask, my tone conversational and lethal. The woman he was engaged to right before he met you. The woman he swore meant absolutely nothing to him. The woman he told you he barely remembered. The gate code is the exact month, day, and year he proposed to her. 6 digits. Have fun guessing. I do not hang up. I stay on the line. I want to hear the fallout. I want to hear the exact moment the unity of the Wilson family shatters into pieces. Jamal, Chloe says. Her voice is no longer focused on me. Her voice is directed entirely at her husband. It is low, trembling with a sudden, venomous suspicion. Jamal. Why would she use that date? I hear Jamal stammering in the background. His voice is weak, high-pitched, and stripped of all its usual arrogance. I do not know, babe. She is just crazy. Maya is just playing mind games. Do not listen to her. Do not lie to me, Chloe shrieks, the sound piercing through the phone speaker. The therapy speak is gone. The composed entitlement is gone. She is a woman scorned, standing on a driveway she no longer owns, staring at a husband she suddenly realizes she does not know. What is the date, Jamal? What is the 6-digit date? Why is she using that date? Jamal cannot answer. He turns pale. Even through the phone I can hear the blood draining from his face. He turns pale because he knows exactly why I use that date. He knows that I know he still calls her. He knows that I know he still sends her flowers on that exact date every single year, paying for them with the same Onyx Holdings corporate card he used to fund Chloe's lavish lifestyle. Tell me the date, Chloe screams, her voice echoing off the brick mansions of the neighborhood. I reach out and press the red button on my phone. The call ends. The connection is severed. The eviction is complete, and the infection inside their marriage has been violently exposed. They are locked out of their house, locked out of their bank accounts, and locked out of their trust in one another. The carefully curated, perfectly filtered reality of the Wilson family has been entirely dismantled piece by piece, lie by lie. The neon vacancy sign of the Starlight Inn off Interstate 285 flickers, casting a sickly, intermittent red glow through the thin-stained curtains of room 114. The room smells of stale smoke. The room smells of industrial bleach. The room smells of absolute, inescapable failure. There are 2 double beds covered in cheap, scratchy polyester bedspreads. Beatrice sits rigidly on the edge of one, her designer linen suit wrinkling against the synthetic fabric. She refuses to lean back against the headboard. She refuses to acknowledge the water stains spreading across the popcorn ceiling. Chloe paces the narrow strip of worn carpet between the beds and the battered laminate dresser. Her heels click erratically against the floorboards. She is completely ignoring the squalor of the motel. Her mind is entirely consumed by the 6 numbers that unlocked her storage unit. 6 digits. 6 numbers that proved her entire marriage is a fraud. 6 numbers that proved she is nothing but a heavily financed placeholder. You still talk to her, Chloe hisses, spinning to face Jamal. He is slumped in the single plastic chair by the rattling air conditioning unit, staring at the floor. You used her anniversary date for your secure passwords. You used the day you proposed to her to lock up my things. You used it for your banking. You have been carrying a torch for a woman who dumped you because you were broke, and you brought that pathetic obsession into our marriage. How long, Jamal? How long have you been sneaking around? Jamal rubs his hands over his face, exhausted and cornered. Chloe, drop it. We are sleeping in a roadside motel because my sister went psychotic. Now is not the time. Do not tell me when the time is. Chloe screams, her voice bouncing off the thin drywall. You bought me this ring with your sister's money. You funded my lifestyle with your sister's money. And you locked it all behind your ex-fiancé's anniversary. You are a fraud. You have nothing. You are nothing. Jamal shoots to his feet, his own humiliation boiling over into rage. I am a fraud. You only married me because you thought my family had millions. You only stayed because of the black card. The second the money dries up, you are crying about a password. You are just as fake as the rest of this. They collide in a shouting match, hurling insults, tearing down the last remaining shreds of their curated high society romance. Beatrice ignores them. She treats their screaming like background noise. In the far corner of the room near the bathroom door, Marcus is pacing. His heavy, authoritative frame looks absurdly out of place under the buzzing fluorescent light. He has his cell phone pressed tightly to his ear. He is trying to salvage the unsalvageable. He dialed the number. He waited for the tone. He swallowed his pride. Richard, my man, Marcus says, forcing a deep, booming laugh that sounds hollow and desperate. Listen, Beatrice and I are having a slight issue with our bank. A security freeze, you know how these corporate algorithms are. I need a temporary bridge loan, just $50,000 to tide us over until Monday. The silence on the other end of the line is heavy. Richard is the president of the country club. Richard is a man Marcus has played golf with every Tuesday for 3 years. Marcus Richards says, his voice painfully polite and entirely distant. I heard about what happened this afternoon. I heard the police were called to the Alpharetta property. I heard Onyx Holdings terminated your tenancy. Marcus freezes. The phone feels like a block of lead in his hand. How did you hear that, Richard? It has been less than 3 hours. Word travels fast, Marcus. You know how Atlanta is. The board also received an alert regarding your club membership dues. They have been bouncing since yesterday. I cannot help you, Marcus. Do not call me again. The line clicks dead. Marcus stares at the screen. He dialed another number. He waited for the tone. He swallowed his pride. Franklin brother Marcus begins, his voice losing its confident timbre. I am in a slight bind. Franklin hangs up before Marcus can finish the sentence. He dialed a third number. He waited for the tone. He swallowed his pride. The automated voicemail beeped back at him. The reality crushes the last breath of air from his lungs. Atlanta's black elite is a small, tightly knit circle. They demand excellence. They demand wealth, and above all, they demand authenticity. The gossip has already spread through the group chats, the text threads, and the exclusive social circles. Everyone knows Marcus Wilson does not own his house. Everyone knows his credit is non-existent. Everyone knows he has been living off the charity of the daughter he banished. The country club is a fortress, and the drawbridge has been permanently pulled up. His reputation is ash. Marcus slowly lowers the phone. He looks at his wife. Beatrice. He whispers, the great patriarch, sounding like a frightened child. They know. They all know. We have nothing. Beatrice finally moves. She stands up from the cheap polyester bedspread. She smooths the wrinkles from her skirt. She watches her son and daughter-in-law tearing each other apart. She watches her husband crumbling into defeat. She refuses to accept this narrative. She refuses to be the victim of her own daughter's revenge. Stop it, Beatrice snaps. Her voice is not loud, but it is laced with such venomous authority that Jamal and Chloe immediately fall silent. Beatrice walks to the center of the room. She looks at the stained walls. She looks at the flickering neon light outside the window. She looks at her ruined family. Maya thinks she has won, Beatrice says, her eyes narrowing into cold, calculating slits. Maya thinks she can humiliate us, strip us of our dignity, and throw us in the gutter while she sits in her penthouse. Maya is jealous. She has always been jealous of this family. She has always been a bitter, spiteful girl. But she has made one critical miscalculation. Marcus looks up, a desperate glimmer of hope returning to his eyes. What miscalculation? She forgot who raised her, Beatrice states, stepping toward the small, scarred table where her handbag rests. She pulls out a thick, glossy cardstock invitation. She slaps it onto the laminate surface. The gold foil lettering catches the harsh motel light. The annual Black Business Excellence Gala. Date Friday, 2 days from now. Maya is receiving the Innovator of the Year award? Beatrice explains, her voice dropping into a deadly rhythmic cadence. She is being honored in front of the mayor, the city council, and every major investor in the Southeast. She is going to stand on a stage and present herself as a pillar of the community. Beatrice taps a manicured fingernail against the gold foil. We are going to that gala, Beatrice declares, a chilling smile stretching across her face. We are her family. The community expects family to be united. The community demands respect for parents. We are going to walk right into that ballroom, and we are going to confront her in front of every single camera, every single reporter, and every single elite investor she relies on. She cannot run from us in public. Beatrice continues, her eyes shining with malicious anticipation. She cannot hide behind corporate holding companies and gate codes when the cameras are flashing. We will use the pressure of the entire community. We will force her to look us in the eye. We will shame her into doing the right thing, or we will drag her reputation down into the dirt right alongside ours. The penthouse is draped in the quiet, absolute stillness of high-altitude luxury. 40 floors above the frantic energy of the Atlanta streets, I stand in front of the floor-to-ceiling mirror in my dressing room. The gown is a custom creation of heavy liquid onyx silk. It cascades over my shoulders and pools at my feet, a physical manifestation of the empire I built while they were busy spending my stolen inheritance. I do not look like the awkward, discarded daughter they banished. I look like a woman who owns the building. My phone chimes. It is a secure direct line. I press the earpiece. Maya, we have a breach, Elias, my chief of security says. His voice is tight, professional, but laced with urgent concern. The guest list for the Black Business Excellence Gala was locked, but a third-party vendor just transferred a VIP table registration. The names were scrubbed until 10 minutes ago. It is your father. Beatrice used a dormant charity contact to bypass the vetting protocols. The entire family is on the final manifest. I do not flinch. I do not drop my gaze from my own reflection in the mirror. I see the cold, calculating woman I was forced to become. Do you want me to alert the venue security? Elias asks. We can have their credentials revoked at the door. We can have them escorted off the premises before they even see the red carpet. They are looking for a public confrontation, Maya. They want to weaponize the community against you. No, I reply, my voice perfectly smooth, dropping into a terrifyingly calm register. Let them in. Do not block their access. Do not alert the press pool. Elias hesitates. Maya, they are desperate. Desperate people make erratic scenes. I know exactly what they are going to do, I say. Cancel the security intercept. I tap the earpiece, ending the call. The silence of the penthouse rushes back in. I stare at my reflection. Let them come. Let them burn. Let them come. Let them burn. The words cycle through my mind, a rhythmic driving drumbeat of absolute resolve. It is not an erratic emotional response. It is a deliberate psychological conditioning, a litany of destruction. Let them come. Let them burn. Let them come. Let them burn. I turn away from the mirror and walk across the polished hardwood floor to the master suite. I press my thumb against the biometric scanner hidden behind a framed abstract canvas. The heavy steel door of the wall safe hisses open. Inside, resting on a velvet tray, is a sleek, heavy silver USB drive. This drive does not contain simple bank statements. It contains 5 years of absolute forensic accounting. It contains the exact paper trail of the fraudulent lease. It contains the Onyx Holdings corporate card records, proving Jamal's illicit upgrades. It contains the desperate rejected loan applications my father submitted to his elite country club friends. It contains the comprehensive, undeniable digital autopsy of the Wilson family's fake aristocratic empire. I pick up the cold silver drive. I slip it into my black velvet clutch. I snap the clasp shut. The sound echoes in the room like a finalized verdict. The ride to the downtown venue takes 20 minutes. Sitting in the back of the tinted armored limousine, I watch the city lights blur past the glass. I do not feel fear. I do not feel the crippling anxiety that used to choke me whenever I had to face my parents' judgment. I only feel the weight of the silver drive resting inside my bag. The limousine glides to a stop in front of the grand ballroom entrance. The street is cordoned off with velvet ropes. The red carpet stretches toward the golden doors, illuminated by the harsh strobing flashes of 100 press cameras. Reporters and community leaders line the perimeter. This is the apex of Atlanta's corporate elite. This is the exact audience Beatrice wants to use to shame me into submission. My driver steps out. He walks around the hood of the vehicle and opens my door. The humid night air rushes in, carrying the sound of shouting photographers and the heavy bass of the gala's internal music. I step out of the car. My onyx silk gown catches the flashing lights. I raise my chin, projecting the absolute authority of the innovator of the year. I take one step onto the red carpet. I do not make it to the second step. Standing directly in the center of the walkway, completely blocking the path to the entrance, is the Wilson family. They are a jarring sight. They are wearing their last remaining designer clothes, but the garments look tired, pulled hastily from cheap industrial trash bags inside a sweaty metal storage unit. Beatrice's hair is slightly frizzy from the humidity. Marcus is sweating through his tailored suit jacket. Jamal is glaring at the cameras while Chloe is actively trying to angle her face to catch the best light for her impending performance. They have bypassed the VIP line. They have positioned themselves exactly where I must confront them. They are standing shoulder to shoulder, a desperate crumbling wall of toxic entitlement, waiting for me under the blinding flash of the media cameras. The humid Atlanta air feels heavy, thick with the scent of expensive perfume and the electric hum of the press pool. I do not break my stride. I take the second step onto the plush crimson fabric, then the third. My heels click with deliberate, measured precision against the pavement. I stop exactly 3 feet away from them. Before I can even utter a single syllable, Beatrice launches her offensive. She does not speak to me. She performs for the cameras. She clutches the lapels of her wrinkled jacket, her face contorting into a mask of absolute manufactured agony. Real tears summoned from years of practiced manipulation spill over her lower lashes and streak her makeup. She drops to her knees just slightly, creating a visual of complete submission and despair. "Maya, please," Beatrice wails. Her voice is amplified, projected perfectly to cut through the ambient noise of the gala. "How could you do this to your own flesh and blood? How could you throw us out on the street? Why did you make your own parents homeless? We just want our family back." The effect is instantaneous. The entire red carpet freezes. The rapid-fire clicking of the cameras multiplies, shifting from a steady rhythm to a frantic, blinding strobe. The reporters, sensing a scandal that will guarantee front-page coverage, thrust their microphones over the velvet ropes. The elite attendees of the gala, the venture capitalists, the city council members, and the established business leaders all stop in their tracks. A collective gasp ripples through the crowd. Whispers ignite and spread like wildfire through the manicured audience. I can hear the sharp intakes of breath. I can hear the quiet, judgmental murmurs. "Is that Marcus Wilson? I heard they lost the Alpharetta estate yesterday. How could she do that to her own mother? No matter what happens, you never turn your back on your parents." Beatrice remains crumpled in her half-kneel, burying her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with theatrical sobs. She is playing her masterpiece. She is weaponizing the deepest cultural expectations of our community against me. She is banking on the unspoken rule that a successful daughter must carry the weight of her family, that she must protect the family name, and that she must suffer in silence to maintain the illusion of unity. She believes that the public shame of being labeled a cold, heartless daughter will force me to yield. Marcus steps forward, taking his cue perfectly. He stands over Beatrice, placing a comforting hand on her trembling shoulder. He puffs out his chest, attempting to reclaim the imposing patriarchal authority he lost hours ago in a cheap motel room. Maya, this has gone far enough, Marcus declares. His deep baritone is laced with profound manufactured disappointment. You have made your point. But you are humiliating this family in front of our peers. You are embarrassing yourself. We raised you to respect your elders. You will call your security team right now, you will unlock our home, and you will apologize to your mother for this disgraceful stunt. Jamal steps up beside his father, emboldened by the public audience. You cannot treat us like garbage, Maya. We are your blood. Chloe pushes her way to the front, pointing a shaking manicured finger at my face. She stole my property, Chloe cries out to the nearest cluster of reporters. She locked my belongings in an industrial warehouse and left us stranded on the side of the highway. She is a monster. The press pool is practically vibrating with excitement. The questions start flying from behind the velvet ropes, directed entirely at me. Maya, is it true you evicted your parents? Maya, do you have a comment on these allegations? How do you respond to your family's claims of abandonment? They are a pack of cornered animals relying on the sheer pressure of societal expectation to crush me. They think I am the same girl who used to shrink under their disapproval. They think the blinding flash of the cameras will make me panic, that I will retreat into submission to avoid a public scandal. They believe they have trapped me in an impossible position. I look down at Beatrice. I look at Marcus's sweating brow. I look at the desperate, greedy panic swimming in Jamal and Chloe's eyes. I do not shrink. I do not cower. I do not offer a panicked defense to the shouting reporters. I stand perfectly still in my custom onyx gown. I let the silence stretch for one long, agonizing moment. I look directly into the flashing lenses of the press cameras. And then I smile. It is not a polite smile. It is the cold, sharp smile of a predator watching its prey step willingly into a steel trap. I turn my head slightly toward the entrance of the grand ballroom. Flanking the massive double doors are two gigantic LED screens currently displaying the glowing gold logo of the Black Business Excellence Gala. Standing directly beneath the right screen is the chief audio-visual technician for the event. I had wired a highly generous, completely untraceable bonus into his private account exactly 3 hours ago. I catch his eye. I give him a single, deliberate nod. I open the clasp of my black velvet clutch. The sound is sharp and metallic. I reach inside and pull out the sleek, heavy silver USB drive. I hold it up, letting the camera flashes catch the metallic surface. I step forward, forcing Marcus to take a clumsy step back to maintain his balance. I hand the silver drive to an event coordinator, standing just inside the velvet ropes, gesturing toward the technician. Since you brought our family business to the red carpet, Mom, I say, my voice projecting with crystal clear, lethal authority over the entire crowd. Let's show everyone exactly what family means. The AV technician moves with practiced speed. A heavy electronic thud echoes through the outdoor speaker system, cutting off the upbeat jazz playing over the red carpet. The massive LED screens flanking the grand entrance glitch. The glittering gold sponsor logos vanish entirely. In their place, stark white PDF documents illuminate the night. They are high-resolution scans of loan applications, credit line agreements, and default notices. Key sections are highlighted in blinding neon yellow. The name Maya Wilson is printed clearly at the top of each page. The signature at the bottom of each document is a clumsy, obvious forgery. I reach out and smoothly slide a microphone from the frozen grip of a local news anchor standing beside the rope. She does not resist. I tap the grill twice. The sharp thumps echo off the surrounding glass and steel high-rises. My voice rings out amplified across the plaza. It is stripped of any anger. It is purely surgical. Take a good look at the screens, I command the crowd. Every head turns. Every camera lens pivots upward. The constant popping of flashbulbs momentarily stops as the entire press pool realizes they are no longer shooting a family squabble. They are documenting a felony. My mother just asked how I could throw them out on the street, I say, my voice ringing with cold authority. She wants to talk about family. So let us talk about the foundation of the Wilson family. I point up at the towering LED displays. The pages automatically scroll to the next set of documents. Bank statements with massive negative balances. Collections agency letters printed in harsh red ink. 17 years ago, on the exact day I turned 18, Marcus and Beatrice Wilson walked into a bank I announce. They did not open a savings account for my college tuition. They used my social security number to take out $250,000 in fraudulent loans. Beatrice gasps, her hands flying to her mouth. It is not fake agony this time. It is genuine, unadulterated terror. Her carefully constructed societal mask shatters into pieces. Marcus stands paralyzed, his imposing frame suddenly looking hollow and frail. The sweat on his forehead reflects the harsh white light of his exposed crimes. They maxed out credit cards in my name. I continue the microphone, projecting my words over the stunned silence. They forged my signature on secondary mortgages. While I was working night shifts to pay for my own textbooks, my parents were destroying my financial future before it even began. They took my pristine credit and they burned it to the ground. The crowd is absolutely captivated. The elite attendees of Atlanta, the bankers, the real estate developers, the judges all stare at the screens in abject horror. They understand the severity of identity theft. They understand the depravity of a parent doing it to their own child. The quiet murmurs shift from eager gossip to sheer revulsion. And what did they buy with my stolen identity, I ask, lowering the microphone slightly to let the question hang in the humid air. I turn and point directly at Jamal. He shrinks back, his eyes darting frantically toward the cameras. They bought him, I state. They bought Jamal a luxury sports car for his college graduation. They paid off his gambling debts. They funded his failed startup ventures. They manufactured a successful son by financially executing their daughter. I step closer to Beatrice. She is trembling, shrinking away from me under the glare of the flashbulbs. She opens her mouth to speak, to offer some pathetic defense, but no words come out. She is completely trapped in the spotlight she demanded. You didn't raise me, I tell the dead silent crowd. You financed Jamal's life by stealing my identity, and I bought that house to keep you out of federal prison. The silence on the red carpet is absolute. It is the heavy, suffocating silence of a social execution. The men Marcus played golf with turn their faces away in disgust. The charity board members who once smiled at Beatrice stare at her with open contempt. Marcus is no longer a patriarch. He is a common thief, exposed and ruined in front of the entire city. His legacy is permanently destroyed. The realization snaps the last thread of Marcus's control. A guttural roar tears from his throat. He completely loses his composure, his face contorting into a mask of violent rage. He lunges across the red carpet, his large hands reaching desperately for the microphone, intending to physically silence me. He never reaches me. Elias and 3 of my personal security guards intercept him effortlessly. They hit him with a synchronized tactical block, slamming him back against the velvet ropes. Marcus struggles wildly, the fabric of his expensive suit tearing at the shoulder seam. He shouts incomprehensible threats, his face dark red as the guards pin him firmly in place. The cameras resume their frantic flashing, capturing every second of his humiliating breakdown. The crowd steps back, giving the violent spectacle a wide berth. Beatrice is weeping for real now, hiding her face behind her handbag, terrified and completely exposed. Chloe is backing away, physically distancing herself from the radioactive fallout of the Wilson name. But Jamal does not retreat. He steps into the empty space left by his father. His fists are clenched at his sides. His chest is heaving. His eyes are wide with a frantic, desperate fury. He stares at me, entirely ignoring the security guards holding his father, preparing to escalate the confrontation. Jamal thrusts his finger at my face. His hand is trembling not from fear, but from a toxic cocktail of adrenaline and humiliated rage. You are a liar! Jamal spits, his voice echoing across the silent plaza. You are a bitter, jealous outcast. You have always been jealous of me. You fabricated these documents because you could never stand the fact that they loved me more. You are pathetic, Maya. He plays the victim perfectly. He plays the indignant prince defending his realm. It is a performance. It is a lie. It is a performance. It is a lie. I do not raise my voice. I do not need to. I have the absolute advantage of the truth. Am I jealous, Jamal? I ask softly into the microphone, my voice slicing through the heavy, humid air. Or am I just observant? I raise my left hand. I point a single finger toward the technician stationed beneath the right screen. The massive LED displays glitch once again. The fraudulent loan applications vanish, melting into a sea of digital static before resolving into a new sequence of financial records. These documents are different. They are crisp, modern bank statements, wire transfer logs, and encrypted digital receipts. The bold, modern logo of Jamal's supposedly bankrupt tech startup Novatech Solutions is plastered across the top of the central ledger. Let us talk about this golden child, I announce, my voice sweeping over the captivated crowd. Let us talk about the genius entrepreneur who was supposed to build an empire and elevate the Wilson name to the billionaire class. Jamal turns his head to look at the screens. The blood drains from his face so fast, he looks as though he might pass out. His arrogant posture collapses entirely, his shoulders slumping under the crushing weight of exposure. He is drowning. He is thrashing. He is drowning. He is thrashing. 2 years ago, I say, pacing slowly across the red carpet, my heels clicking a steady, terrifying rhythm of doom. Marcus and Beatrice Wilson liquidated the last of their legitimate assets. They took out a second mortgage on the Alpharetta estate. They gathered $200,000 in cash. They handed every single penny to Jamal to fund his revolutionary startup. I pause, letting the numbers sink into the minds of the venture capitalists, bankers, and high society leaders standing behind the velvet ropes. They know what $200,000 means. They know how quickly a startup can burn through capital when mismanaged. 6 months later, Jamal declared bankruptcy. I continue my tone unrelenting. He told his parents the market was too volatile. He told them the beta testing failed. He told them the money was gone, vanished into the unforgiving ether of a competitive tech landscape. I gestured toward the glowing screens. A massive neon yellow highlighted row appears on the central ledger, expanding to fill the display. It details a single massive wire transfer of $150,000. But the money did not vanish into the market. I state, my voice ringing with cold precision. The money was wired directly to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, an account registered to Apex Global Sports Betting. A collective gasp erupts from the press pool. The camera flashes intensify, bathing Jamal in a harsh, unforgiving strobe light. He is sweating profusely now, shaking his head, taking stumbling steps backward away from the glare of the truth. He embezzled it, I declare to the silent, horrified audience. He took the money you stole from me, the money you mortgaged your entire life to provide, and he gambled it away on overseas sporting events. Beatrice lets out a sound that is barely human. It is a ragged, suffocated wheeze like the last breath of a dying animal. She drops her handbag. It hits the pavement with a heavy thud, spilling designer lipstick and loose change across the plush red carpet. She stares up at the massive screens, her eyes wide with a horrified, vacant disbelief. No, Beatrice whispers, shaking her head frantically. No, Jamal. Tell her she is lying. Tell them it is a lie. Tell them you built the company. Jamal cannot speak. His jaw works silently, but no sound emerges. He is paralyzed by the undeniable digital proof hovering 40 feet above his head, illuminated for the entire city to witness. The screen automatically transitions to the next document. It is a highly detailed bill of sale. A vehicle registration form from an exclusive luxury dealership in Buckhead. And the remaining $50,000, I say, twisting the knife deeper into the decaying heart of this family. He did not use it to pay off his creditors. He did not use it to help his parents when the bank started calling about the defaulted mortgage. I turn my gaze to Chloe. She is standing near the edge of the carpet wearing a silk dress, bought with stolen money, carrying a clutch funded by theft. She freezes, her eyes widening in sudden panicked realization as she recognizes the paperwork on the screen. He used the rest of the startup capital to buy a Porsche 911 Carrera, I announce, pointing the microphone directly at her. A gift for his girlfriend to keep up appearances while his parents march toward financial ruin. The crowd erupts into disgusted murmurs. The elite society members are visibly repulsed. Financial failure is a risk of doing business, a tragic but acceptable reality. Embezzling family funds to fuel a gambling addiction and purchase luxury cars while letting your parents lose their home is a social death sentence. There is no coming back from this. The illusion is dead. The golden idol is shattered. The illusion is dead. The golden idol is shattered. Beatrice falls completely to her knees. She is not performing for the cameras anymore. She is experiencing the catastrophic, agonizing collapse of her entire reality. The son she worshipped, the brilliant boy she sacrificed my future to protect, is a common fraud. He is a parasite. He is the architect of her destruction. Marcus stops struggling against my security guards. The fight completely leaves his imposing body. He stands perfectly still, staring up at the LED screens. His chest heaves as the truth painstakingly processes in his mind. The realization hits him with the blunt force of a freight train. The eviction, the loss of the grand estate, the public humiliation they are enduring tonight, none of it was caused by my cruelty. It was caused entirely by Jamal's boundless greed. My security guards sense the sudden drop in his aggression and slightly loosen their tactical grip. It is a fatal mistake for Jamal. Marcus rips his arm free with a sudden violent surge of energy. He does not lunge for me. He turns his back to me entirely. He lunges directly for his son. With a terrifying primal roar, Marcus crosses the distance between them in two massive strides. He grabs Jamal by the lapels of his expensive tailored jacket, the fabric twisting under his massive fists. He lifts his golden child practically off the ground, shaking him with a violent, unrestrained fury. "You stole it!" Marcus bellows, spittle flying from his lips, his voice raw and broken. "You stole the money. We lost the house because of you. We are sleeping in a filthy motel because of you." Jamal flails, grabbing desperately at his father's wrists, his handsome face contorted in absolute panic. "Dad, wait. Let me explain. It was an investment. I was going to win it back. I swear I was going to win it back. You ruined us!" Marcus screams, his voice cracking with a potent mixture of rage and profound devastation. The cameras capture every single frame of the patriarch physically attacking his golden child. It is a beautiful, chaotic symphony of karma playing out exactly as I designed it. The fabric of Jamal's custom-tailored jacket tears with a loud, distinct rip under his father's crushing grip. Marcus is entirely blind with fury, shaking his golden boy like a discarded rag doll under the blinding glare of 100 flashing cameras. Jamal is gasping, his hands clawing uselessly at his father's thick wrists, his arrogant facade completely dissolved into whimpering panic. The red carpet has transformed into a gladiator arena, and the press pool is documenting every humiliating second of the Wilson family's destruction. Standing a few feet away, Chloe watches the brutal scene unfold. I keep my gaze locked on her face. I watch the exact moment the calculation completes behind her perfectly manicured eyes. She looks at the massive LED screen, displaying the financial records of the embezzled Porsche. She looks at her husband, cowering and weeping under his father's assault. She looks at Beatrice, who is sobbing uncontrollably on the ground. The Wilson empire has officially struck the iceberg, and Chloe is already sprinting for the only available lifeboat. She takes a dramatic step away from her husband. She throws both hands over her mouth, her eyes widening in an expression of absolute manufactured horror. She lets out a sharp, piercing wail, pitching her voice perfectly to cut through Marcus's furious roaring. "No," Chloe screams, her voice trembling with practiced hysteria. "No, Jamal, tell me it is not true." Marcus pauses his assault just enough for Jamal to turn his terrified face toward his wife. Chloe does not look at him. She turns directly to the cameras, tears streaming down her face, playing the role of the innocent, deceived bride to absolute perfection. "He lied to me," Chloe cries out to the reporters, her hands shaking as she clutches her designer silk dress. "He told me the business was thriving. He brought that car home and told me it was a company bonus for his hard work. I had no idea the money was stolen. I swear to you, I did not know." She takes a few steps toward me, extending her hands as if pleading for my understanding. She is actively trying to align herself with the victim. "Maya, you have to believe me," Chloe pleads, her voice dripping with desperation. "I am a victim of his lies just as much as you are. He manipulated me. He used me to maintain his fake lifestyle. I would never have stayed with him if I knew he was destroying your family to do it. The sheer audacity of her performance is almost impressive. She is throwing her husband to the wolves without a single second of hesitation, desperately trying to salvage her own social standing by pretending to be collateral damage. I do not speak. I simply bring the microphone to my lips and laugh. The sound echoes across the plaza through the massive outdoor speakers. It is a cold, sharp, merciless sound that instantly silences Chloe's theatrical weeping. The crowd shifts uncomfortably. Even Marcus releases his grip on Jamal, turning his head to stare at me. "You are a remarkable actress, Chloe," I say, my voice ringing with absolute authority. But innocence is a very strong word, and loyalty was never really your strong suit, was it? I do not wait for her to formulate another lie. I raise my hand and point toward the glowing screens. The audio-visual technician hits the final cue. The embezzled bank records vanish. The screen goes black for a fraction of a second, building the anticipation to a breaking point. Then a new document blazes across the digital displays, illuminating the night sky. It is not a bank statement. It is a high-resolution screenshot of a private email. I look at Chloe. She freezes completely. The fake tears instantly stop falling. Her arms drop to her sides. All the color drains from her face, leaving her looking like a porcelain doll about to shatter into a million pieces. "Let us read this together," I announce to the silent, captivated crowd. The sender is Chloe Wilson. The recipient is Elias Vance, lead counsel for Onyx Holdings. The date is exactly 48 hours ago. I take a slow, deliberate step forward, my eyes locked on her terrified face. Subject line. I read aloud, my voice amplified and echoing off the surrounding skyscrapers. A mutually beneficial arrangement. Jamal slowly turns his head, looking from his wife to the massive screen hovering above them. His bruised, tear-stained face contorts into a mask of pure disbelief. Beatrice stops crying, staring up at the words projected in glowing white text. "If Maya pays me $100,000, I read directly from the screen, articulating every single syllable with lethal precision. "I will divorce Jamal tomorrow. Furthermore, I will willingly testify in federal court against Marcus and Beatrice Wilson regarding their knowledge of the fraudulent loans and their complicity in hiding stolen assets. I have copies of their financial ledgers. I am ready to cooperate immediately upon receipt of funds." The silence on the red carpet is absolute. It is the heavy, suffocating silence of total annihilation. Chloe stands paralyzed. She looks like a deer caught in the headlights of an oncoming train. She cannot spin this. She cannot cry her way out of it. Her own words, typed in cold, calculating black and white, hang above her for the entire city to read. Jamal's chest heaves. The realization of her ultimate betrayal hits him with the force of a physical blow. His wife, the woman he embezzled a fortune to impress the woman he let his parents lose their home for, had actively tried to sell all of them out for a payout. "You parasite!" Jamal screams, his voice tearing at the seams. He lunges at her. The golden couple shatters instantly. Chloe shrieks and stumbles backward, tripping over her expensive heels as Jamal grabs for her arm. "Get your hands off me, you broke loser!" Chloe screeches, entirely dropping her innocent victim act. Her face twists into a vicious, ugly sneer. "You have nothing. You are nothing. I am not going down with this pathetic family." Beatrice scrambles to her feet, her previous despair instantly replaced by a feral, unhinged rage. She throws herself toward Chloe, her hands curled into claws. "You scheming viper!" Beatrice shrieks, slapping wildly at Chloe's shoulders. "We gave you everything. We welcomed you into our home, and you try to send us to prison, you rat." Marcus lets out a roar of absolute disgust. He grabs Beatrice by the waist to pull her back, but he is equally furious, yelling at both Jamal and Chloe. "You are all worthless." Marcus bellows, the last remnants of his aristocratic dignity burning away. "You disgust me. You destroyed my name." The red carpet dissolves into absolute primal chaos. It is no longer a high society gala entrance. It is a fighting pit. The family has completely imploded. They are screaming, shoving, and tearing at each other like a pack of starved wolves fighting over a rotting carcass. The press pool captures every single second of the feral breakdown. I stand a few feet away, perfectly composed in my onyx silk gown. I do not interfere. I do not need to. They are doing the work for me. They are finally showing the world exactly who they have always been. The physical altercation escalates with terrifying speed. It is no longer a dignified family dispute. It is an ugly, vicious street brawl broadcast live to the entire city. Jamal swings a wild, undisciplined fist that connects hard with his father's jaw. Marcus stumbles back, blood instantly blooming over his lips, before letting out a guttural scream and charging his son. They crash into the velvet ropes, tearing the heavy stanchions out of the pavement. Chloe attempts to sprint away from the carnage, desperate to reach the waiting line of town cars, but Beatrice lunges forward and grabs a fistful of Chloe's designer silk dress. The fabric tears with a loud, sickening rip. Chloe shrieks, spinning around to claw at her mother-in-law's face. The security detail from the gala moves in, but they are overwhelmed by the sheer, unhinged violence of the four adults tearing each other apart. The flashing strobes of the paparazzi cameras capture every torn seam, every drop of blood, every look of absolute feral hatred. The reporters who were shouting questions just moments ago are now backing away in genuine shock, holding their microphones out like shields against the chaos. Then the wail of sirens cuts through the humid night air. The flashing red and blue lights of the Atlanta Police Department bounce off the towering glass facades of the downtown high-rises. 3 patrol cruisers pull aggressively onto the cordoned street, their tires screeching against the asphalt. Uniformed officers pour out of the vehicles shouting immediate sharp commands. "Break it up," an officer yells, rushing onto the red carpet. "Get on the ground right now." Marcus, blinded by rage, refuses to stop grappling with Jamal. It takes 3 police officers to physically tackle the former patriarch to the pavement. They force his face against the plush crimson carpet, pulling his arms behind his back. The sharp metallic click of handcuffs snapping shut around Marcus Wilson's wrists rings out like a gunshot. Jamal is pinned against the side of a patrol car, his nose bleeding, his expensive tailored jacket hanging in shreds. He is hyperventilating, sobbing in panicked, jagged gasps as an officer recites his Miranda rights. The golden child, the brilliant entrepreneur, the pride of the Wilson name, is being arrested for public assault and battery on live television. Chloe is backed against a brick pillar, her torn dress held together with shaking hands as 2 officers question her. She is weeping, trying to point fingers at Beatrice, frantically attempting to distance herself from the legal fallout of the embezzled funds that she willingly helped spend. And then there is Beatrice. An officer has her by the arm, guiding her firmly toward the back of a waiting squad car. Her hair is a tangled mess. Her face is streaked with ruined mascara and dirt. She has lost a shoe. The aristocratic matriarch of the Alpharetta elite is entirely unrecognizable. She looks broken, hollowed out, completely stripped of her venom and her pride. As the officer pulls her toward the vehicle, Beatrice turns her head. Her bloodshot eyes find me standing alone on the red carpet. I have not moved an inch. I am standing perfectly still, my breathing steady, my custom onyx silk gown completely untouched by the violence. Beatrice digs her heels into the pavement, resisting the officer's pull for one final desperate moment. She extends her shaking bare hand toward me. Her face contorts in absolute panic. She finally realizes that the cameras are not saving her. The society she worshipped is not intervening. There is no bailout coming. There is no secondary mortgage to sign. There is only the absolute terrifying reality of the consequences she earned. "Maya, please," Beatrice screams, her voice cracking, completely devoid of any theatrical pretense. "Maya, help us. You cannot let them do this. We are just family." I look at her trembling hand reaching through the humid air. Just family. Just family. Just family. The words echo in my mind. They cycle through my consciousness, a heavy driving drumbeat. For 30 years, that exact phrase was my prison sentence. It was the absolute justification for every stolen dollar, every public humiliation, every shattered dream. It was the weapon they used to keep me small, to keep me silent, to keep me bleeding out so they could drink the profits. It was the excuse they demanded I swallow while they fed my future to the fire. Just family, just family, just family. The repetition stops, the cycle breaks, the conditioning evaporates into the night air. I feel a profound absolute stillness settle over my heart. The lingering shadows of the discarded daughter are permanently eradicated. I look at the ruined, sobbing woman being forced into the back of a police cruiser. I do not feel pity. I do not feel anger. I feel absolutely nothing. I step forward. The remaining press pool falls completely silent, straining to catch my response. I am not family, I state. My voice is perfectly smooth, devoid of any emotion, cold and final as a steel blade. I am the landlord, and you are evicted. I do not wait for her reaction. I do not watch the police officer press his hand to the top of her head and force her into the back of the squad car. I simply turn my back on the flashing blue lights, the blood on the carpet, and the screaming remnants of the Wilson Empire. I face the grand entrance of the ballroom. The two massive golden doors are opened for me by the event staff. The heavy bass of the gala's internal music spills out, welcoming me. I adjust the strap of my velvet clutch. I raise my chin. I walk through the doors and step into the sprawling, magnificent ballroom. The room is packed with the most powerful executives, politicians, and innovators in the state. They have been watching the live feed of the red carpet on their phones. They saw the documents. They saw the betrayal. They saw the absolute, uncompromising execution of toxic dead weight. As I take my first step onto the polished marble floor of the ballroom, the music suddenly cuts out. A heavy, expectant silence falls over the 1,000 guests. Every face turns toward the entrance. Every eye locks onto me. At a table near the front, an older venture capitalist stands up. He looks at me with an expression of profound, undeniable respect. He brings his hands together. A single sharp clap rings out in the quiet room. The woman sitting next to him stands and joins in. Then a tech CEO at the next table. Then a city councilwoman. The applause builds. It ripples outward, spreading from the front row to the back of the massive hall. Within seconds, the entire ballroom is on its feet. The sound swells into a deafening, thunderous roar. It is not polite, obligatory clapping. It is a genuine, roaring, standing ovation from the apex predators of Atlanta. They are not clapping for my business acumen. They are not clapping for my tech innovations. They are applauding the absolute, terrifying strength of a woman who looked her own destruction in the eye and chose to conquer it instead. I walk forward through the parting crowd, the applause washing over me, bathed in the brilliant light of the empire I built with my own 2 hands. The weeks that follow the gala are a blur of spectacular, unrelenting consequences. The Wilson family name, once a symbol of unshakable prestige and generational wealth within Atlanta's elite circles, becomes a cautionary tale whispered in boardrooms and country clubs. Karma does not just knock on their door, it kicks the door off its hinges and strips the house bare. The public spectacle on the red carpet was only the ignition spark. The federal government provides the explosion. The IRS does not ignore digital confessions of embezzlement projected 40 feet high in the middle of downtown Atlanta. Within 48 hours of the gala, federal investigators swarm what is left of Jamal's fraudulent tech startup. The offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands are forcefully cracked open, the financial records subpoenaed, and the paper trail meticulously reconstructed. Jamal's arrogant golden boy persona evaporates instantly under the crushing weight of federal indictments. He goes from pitching non-existent software to venture capitalists to sitting in a sterile interrogation room facing multiple counts of wire fraud, tax evasion, and embezzlement. There is no charm smooth enough to talk his way out of federal prison, and there is no father left with the capital to buy his freedom. Chloe's desperate attempt to abandon the sinking ship fails with spectacular precision. Recognizing that the Wilson fortune is a mirage, she files for divorce before the weekend is over. She cites irreconcilable differences and attempts to spin a narrative of a deceived innocent bride to anyone who will listen. But family court moves entirely too slow to beat a federal asset seizure. Every single thing they own is frozen. The luxury Porsche she flaunted around Buckhead is towed away from their driveway in the middle of the night. The designer bags, the jewelry, the joint bank accounts. Everything is liquidated to pay back defrauded investors and government fines. Chloe walks out of the marriage with absolutely nothing but the clothes on her back and a permanently ruined reputation. Her desperate climb to the top of the social ladder results in a devastating freefall back to the absolute bottom. For Marcus and Beatrice, the fall is a slow, agonizing descent into total obscurity. The bank officially forecloses on the Alpharetta estate. The luxury cars are repossessed. Their remaining legitimate assets are entirely drained to cover the catastrophic legal fees generated by their son's criminal defense. The social exile is immediate and surgical. The country club revokes their membership. The charity boards quietly remove Beatrice's name from their letterheads. Their phones simply stop ringing. They are radioactive. Stripped of their wealth and their status, Marcus and Beatrice are forced to sign a lease on a cramped, dingy one-bedroom apartment in a forgotten, rundown suburb miles away from the city center. There are no marble columns. There are no vaulted ceilings or catered dinners. There is only peeling linoleum, the constant hum of a failing refrigerator, and the suffocating silence of a couple left alone with the wreckage of their own terrible choices. They sacrificed their brilliant daughter to fund a parasite, and the parasite ate them alive. I do not read the news articles. I do not watch the televised reports of their downfall. I am too busy running my empire. High above the bustling city streets, sunlight pours into my penthouse corner office. The space is a testament to everything I have built, sleek, modern, and commanding. I sit at the head of a massive glass conference table surrounded by my executive team. There is no toxic competition here. There is no backstabbing or gaslighting. My team is brilliant, fiercely loyal, and entirely dedicated to our shared vision. We operate with absolute trust, a concept my biological family could never comprehend. My chief legal counsel slides a thick stack of finalized paperwork across the polished glass. This is not another corporate acquisition. It is the realization of a promise I made to myself years ago when I was sitting in my childhood bedroom dreaming of an escape. I pick up my gold fountain pen. I look at the documents. It is the official charter for the Maya Wilson Innovation Fund. It is a multi-million-dollar grant initiative fully funded by my personal capital. The foundation is specifically designed to seed support and mentor young Black female entrepreneurs. I am taking the wealth my family tried to bleed out of me and using it to build massive, indestructible doors for women who are constantly told they belong in the shadows. I am ensuring that no brilliant girl with a dream ever has to depend on toxic people to fund her future. I sign the final page with a bold, sweeping flourish. The room erupts into genuine, enthusiastic applause. My team stands raising their coffee mugs and sparkling water in a toast. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated triumph, a stark and beautiful contrast to the chaotic violence I left behind on the red carpet. As the meeting disperses and my team files out of the office to begin the day's work, I am left completely alone in the expansive space. I walk over to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The Atlanta skyline stretches out beneath me, a sprawling network of glass and steel reflecting the morning sun. I own my space in this city. I survived the fire they started, and I forged an empire from their ashes. A soft vibration breaks the silence. My phone buzzes against the polished mahogany of my desk. I walk over and glance down at the screen. It is a text message. The sender name flashes bright and desperate. Beatrice. A preview of the message scrolls across the locked screen. Maya, please. We have nothing left. The apartment is so cold. I am so sorry for everything we did. We are your parents. Please just talk to us. We need you. I read the words, but they do not penetrate the armor I have built. I do not feel a shred of guilt. I do not feel obligation or sadness or the familiar heavy pull of a toxic bond. The illusion of family loyalty is a lie I no longer subscribe to. They made their choices, and they are living in the reality they actively constructed. I pick up the phone. I do not type a reply. I do not demand a better apology or offer a final scathing lecture. I do not need the last word because I already won the war. I simply tap the screen, navigating smoothly to the contact options. My finger hovers for a fraction of a second before I press block caller. The screen goes entirely dark. The connection is permanently severed. The ghosts of the past are officially silenced. I set the phone face down on the desk. I pick up my ceramic coffee mug, taking a slow, incredibly satisfying sip of the dark roast. I turn my back on the desk and look out the window one last time, feeling the warmth of the sun on my face. I am completely beautifully free. I take a deep breath, turn around, and walk back to my real life. True power does not come from seeking validation from toxic people who only value you for what they can extract. It comes from recognizing your own worth, quietly building your strength, and refusing to let others dictate your narrative. Blood relation does not excuse abuse, betrayal, or manipulation. When you stop playing by the rules of those who want to keep you small, you reclaim your future. The most profound act of bravery is walking away from the wreckage of a family that never appreciated you. Share your own triumphant story about leaving toxic relatives behind in the comments below.